Sarah Chen looked up at the clear blue London sky with excitement in her eyes. After years of saving every extra dollar from her teacher's salary, she was finally here in England. The 28-year-old from Boston had dreamed of this trip since she was a little girl reading books about kings and queens. Buckingham Palace, she whispered to herself as she checked the map on her phone. It was only a short walk away. Her heart beat faster. She had seen the famous royal guards in movies and on TV shows, but today she would see them for real. The streets of London were busy with people rushing to work. Sarah walked slowly, taking in all the sights. The red buses, the old buildings, and the British accents around her made her smile. Everything was just how she had imagined it would be. As she got closer to the palace, she saw more and more tourists. People from all over the world were there with their cameras ready. Some wore funny hats with the British flag. Others bought small toy guards from street sellers. Everyone seemed happy to be there. Sarah joined the crowd as they walked toward the big gates of Buckingham Palace. The building was huge and beautiful. Its cream-colored walls seemed to shine in the morning sun. Sarah had never seen anything so grand before. "Excuse me," she said to an older man standing nearby. "Is this where we can see the royal guards?" The man smiled kindly. "Yes, dear. Just follow everyone else. The changing of the guard will happen in about 30 minutes, but you can already see some guards standing at their posts." Sarah thanked him and moved with the flow of people. She was not very tall, so she had to stand on her toes sometimes to see over the heads in front of her. Then she saw them. The royal guards in their bright red coats and tall black furry hats. They stood perfectly still, like statues. "Wow," Sarah said under her breath. "They don't move at all." A little boy near her was making funny faces at one of the guards, trying to make him laugh or smile. But the guard's face did not change. His eyes looked straight ahead, not moving even a little bit. Sarah took out her phone and took some pictures. She moved slowly around the area, looking at the different guards. Each one stood as still as the others. It must be very hard to do that job, she thought. The sun was getting warmer now. Sarah could see small drops of sweat on one guard's face, but still, he did not move to wipe it away. She felt respect for these men and women. Their job looked simple, but it must take great strength to stand so still for hours. As she walked closer to get a better picture, Sarah noticed one guard in particular. He seemed younger than the others, maybe close to her age. His face was serious, but there was something kind in his eyes. Sarah felt drawn to him, not in a romantic way, but with curiosity. What was his story? Did he like being a royal guard? Did his feet hurt from standing so long? Unlike some other tourists who were being silly, Sarah just watched him with respect. She didn't try to make him laugh or move. She just appreciated what he was doing. The crowd was getting bigger now. People pushed from behind, all wanting to get the best spot to watch the changing of the guard ceremony. Sarah felt herself being pushed closer to the young guard she had been watching. "Careful there," a woman said as she bumped into Sarah. Sarah nodded and tried to keep her balance. The wind was picking up too, blowing her hair around her face. She reached into her bag for her hat, a simple blue cap she had brought for sunny days. As she put it on, she had no idea that in just a few minutes, this ordinary tourist visit would turn into something that would change her life forever. The wind grew stronger as Sarah stood near the palace gates. Dark clouds moved across the sky, changing the sunny day into a gloomy one. People around her began to open umbrellas and put on rain jackets. "I hope it doesn't rain," Sarah said to herself. She had not brought an umbrella on this trip. Her blue cap was all she had to keep her head dry if the rain came. The crowd was now very thick. Everyone pushed to get the best spot to see the changing of the guard. Sarah found herself being moved closer and closer to the rope that kept tourists away from the guards. She was now only about 10 feet away from the young guard she had been watching. From this close, she could see more details. His uniform was perfect, not a thread out of place. His shoes shined so bright they almost looked like mirrors. His face showed no emotion, but Sarah thought she saw his eyes move slightly, watching the crowd. Suddenly, a loud crack of thunder boomed overhead. Many people jumped in surprise. Some children in the crowd began to cry. But the guard did not move at all. Not even a blink. "Amazing," Sarah whispered. "Such control." Just then, the rain began to fall. It started as a light sprinkle, but quickly became heavier. People scrambled to find cover, pushing and shoving in their hurry. The area around the palace became chaotic. Sarah pulled her blue cap tighter on her head and decided to stay. She had come too far to miss the changing of the guard just because of some rain. She noticed many others were leaving, which gave her a better view of the guards. The young guard still stood perfectly still, even as the rain soaked his red coat and tall black hat. Water dripped down his face, but he did not wipe it away. His discipline was incredible. Another loud thunder crack shook the air. This time, it was followed by a strong gust of wind that swept through the crowd. Sarah felt her cap lifting off her head. "Oh no," she cried, reaching up to grab it. The wind carried her cap high in the air, then dropped it right in front of the rope line near the guard. Without thinking, Sarah ducked under the rope to grab her cap. She knew she wasn't supposed to cross the line, but it happened so fast. As she bent down to pick up her cap, another powerful gust of wind pushed her forward. Sarah lost her balance. She tried to steady herself but couldn't. She fell forward, right toward the young guard. "Watch out," someone in the crowd shouted. Sarah's hands reached out to stop her fall. Before she knew what was happening, her arms were wrapped around the guard's middle. Her face pressed against the red coat. She was hugging the royal guard. The crowd went silent. Everyone stared in shock. Touching the royal guards was strictly forbidden. Sarah knew this. Everyone knew this. Time seemed to stop. Sarah could feel the guard's body tense under his uniform. She could hear his breathing, quick and surprised. She could smell the wool of his coat, now wet from the rain. Slowly, Sarah pulled away. Her face was bright red with shame. She looked up at the guard, expecting anger or a harsh command to step back. "I'm so sorry," she mumbled, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean to. I just..." The wind, the rain continued to fall around them. The crowd watched in silence, many holding up phones to record what was happening. Security guards started moving toward them. For a long moment, the young guard remained perfectly still, staring straight ahead as his training required. His face showed no emotion. But then, something changed. Something small but important. The young guard's eyes moved down to look at Sarah's face. Their eyes met, and in that moment, his strict expression softened just a little. What happened next would soon be seen by millions of people around the world. What happened next would change both their lives forever. Everyone held their breath. The rain fell harder now, but no one moved. All eyes were on Sarah and the young guard. The security men were getting closer. Sarah wanted to run away. Her heart beat so fast she could hear it in her ears. She had broken an important rule. Would they arrest her? Would she have to call the American embassy? Her perfect London trip was turning into a nightmare. The guard still looked at her. For 3 long seconds, their eyes stayed locked. Then, something amazing happened. The corner of his mouth moved up, just a little. It was a small smile, quick and almost hidden, but Sarah saw it. "Are you all right, miss?" The guard asked in a quiet voice. His words were soft, meant only for her to hear. Sarah could not believe it. The guard had spoken to her. He had smiled at her. Everyone knew royal guards never spoke or smiled while on duty. Never. Yes, I'm okay," Sarah whispered back. "I'm so sorry about this." The guard gave a tiny nod, then looked straight ahead again. His face went back to being serious. He stood tall and still, just like before. But something had changed. Something important had happened. The security men reached them. One took Sarah's arm firmly, but not roughly. "Miss, please come with us," he said. You need to leave this area." Sarah nodded. She picked up her wet cap from the ground and let the security men lead her away. As she walked past the crowd, she saw hundreds of phones pointed at her. People were taking pictures and videos. Some were already typing on their phones, sharing what they had seen. The security men took Sarah to a small building near the palace gates. They sat her down in a plain room with just a table and some chairs. "Please wait here," one of them said. "We need to talk about what happened." Sarah sat alone for 20 minutes. Her wet clothes made her cold. She worried about what would happen next. Would they fine her? Would this go on her record? Then the door opened. A woman in a nice suit walked in. She did not look angry, which made Sarah feel a bit better. "Miss Chen," the woman said, looking at the passport Sarah had given to the security men. "I'm Mrs. Taylor from the Royal Household Office. Do you know what happened out there?" Sarah nodded. "I broke the rules. I went under the rope and touched the guard. But it was an accident, I swear. The wind pushed me." Mrs. Taylor sat down across from Sarah. "Yes, many people saw that it was an accident. We're not going to punish you." Sarah let out a big breath. "Thank you." "But something else happened out there," Mrs. Taylor continued. "The guard spoke to you. He showed emotion. That's against the rules too." Sarah didn't know what to say. She didn't want the kind guard to get in trouble because of her. "His name is James Wilson," Mrs. Taylor said. "He's been a royal guard for 8 months. He's never broken protocol before today." "Will he be in trouble?" Sarah asked. Mrs. Taylor looked at her phone. "That's what I came to tell you. The video of what happened is already online. It's spreading very fast. Thousands of people have seen it in just the last half hour." She turned her phone to show Sarah. On the screen was a video titled "Guard Shows Humanity. Most Heartwarming Moment at Buckingham Palace." It already had over 50,000 views. In the video, Sarah could see herself falling against the guard. She could see their eyes meet. The camera had caught the guard's small smile, and thanks to someone standing close by, even his quiet words to her. "The royal household needs to decide how to handle this," Mrs. Taylor said. "But first, we need to know more about you, Miss Chen." Sarah didn't understand why she was so important suddenly. She was just a teacher from Boston who had made a mistake. But she didn't know that by tomorrow morning, her face would be on screens all around the world. Sarah didn't sleep much that night in her small hotel room. She kept checking her phone, watching as the video spread faster than she could believe. By midnight, over 2 million people had seen it. News websites were sharing it. Famous people were posting about it. It was everywhere. She read some of the comments people wrote. "This made me cry. So beautiful. That guard deserves a medal for being human. This is the best thing I've seen all year." Sarah's phone kept buzzing with messages from friends and family back home in Boston. They had all seen the video. Her mom called 3 times, excited that her daughter was internet famous. "I just want this to be over," Sarah told her mom on the phone. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You didn't cause trouble," her mom said. "You made something beautiful happen." Sarah wasn't sure about that. She worried about the guard, James Wilson. Would he lose his job because of her? The thought made her feel sick. Morning came, and Sarah turned on the TV in her hotel room. Her own face looked back at her from the screen. The news was talking about the hug that melted the royal guard. In a moment that has captured hearts worldwide, the news lady said, "An American tourist and a royal guard shared a human connection that broke all the rules but won all our hearts." Sarah turned off the TV. She couldn't watch anymore. She just wanted to enjoy her trip to London, not be the center of attention. Her phone rang. It was a number she didn't know. "Hello," she answered carefully. "Miss Chen, this is Mrs. Taylor from the royal household again. We need to see you today. Can you come to the palace at 10 o'clock? Sarah's heart sank. Maybe they had changed their minds. Maybe they would punish her after all. "Yes, I'll be there," she said. At 10 o'clock, Sarah stood outside the same small building where she had been taken yesterday. She wore her best clothes and tried to look calm, but inside she felt very nervous. Mrs. Taylor met her at the door. To Sarah's surprise, she was smiling. "Come in, Miss Chen. There are some people who want to talk to you." Sarah followed her into a nice room with comfortable chairs and paintings on the walls. 3 people were waiting there. One was an older man in a fancy suit. One was a woman with a clipboard. And the third person was James. Sarah said in surprise. James Wilson, the royal guard, stood up when she entered. He wasn't wearing his red coat and tall hat now. He had on a simple dark suit. He looked very different without his uniform, younger and more relaxed. "Hello, Miss Chen," he said with a small bow of his head. The older man stepped forward. "Miss Chen, I am Sir Robert Hastings, head of Royal Security. Please, sit down." Sarah sat, her hands shaking a little. James sat too, across from her. Sir Robert cleared his throat. "What happened yesterday has created quite a situation. The video has been viewed over 10 million times now. It's the most viral Royal Guard moment in history." Sarah looked down at her hands. "I'm so sorry." "No need to be sorry," Sir Robert said. "We've reviewed all the footage. It was clearly an accident caused by the weather. You didn't mean to break the rules." Sarah felt relief wash over her. "As for Guard Wilson here," Sir Robert continued, looking at James, "he broke protocol by speaking and showing emotion while on duty." James sat very straight in his chair, looking serious again. "However," Sir Robert said, "the public response has been unexpected. People love what happened. They're calling it a perfect display of humanity and duty working together. His Majesty has been informed, and he actually finds the whole thing rather charming." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. The king knew about her. "So what happens now?" she asked. Mrs. Taylor stepped forward with a smile. "That's what we wanted to talk to you about. We have an unusual request." Sarah looked at the people in the room. What could they possibly want from her? She was just a regular teacher who had an accident. "We'd like you and Guard Wilson to do a short interview together," Mrs. Taylor said. "Just 5 minutes, explaining what happened. People want to hear from both of you." Sarah's eyes went wide. "An interview? On TV?" "Yes," Sir Robert said. "The palace doesn't usually do this sort of thing. But this story has touched so many people. We think it would be good to show that there are no hard feelings." Sarah looked at James. He sat quietly, his face calm. "What do you think?" she asked him. James spoke softly. "I'll do what I'm told. But," he paused, "I don't mind doing it if it helps clear things up." Sir Robert nodded. "Good. The interview would be this afternoon. We've picked a reporter who is fair and kind. Just tell the truth about what happened." Sarah thought for a moment. She didn't like being the center of attention, but maybe this would help end the story faster, and she did want to make sure James wasn't in trouble. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it." 3 hours later, Sarah sat in a fancy room in another part of the palace. Bright lights were set up. A friendly woman named Claire from the BBC sat across from her and James. They were both nervous, but Claire made them feel better with her warm smile. "We're on in 30 seconds, a man with a camera said. James straightened his tie. Sarah smoothed her hair. Then the red light on the camera turned on. "Good afternoon," Claire said to the camera. "I'm here with Sarah Chen and James Wilson, the 2 people in the video that everyone is talking about. Thank you both for joining us." She turned to Sarah. "Miss Chen, can you tell us what happened in your own words?" Sarah took a deep breath. "It was an accident. The wind was very strong. My cap blew off, and when I went to get it, I lost my balance. I didn't mean to hug the guard. I mean to hug James." Claire nodded. "And James, you broke protocol by speaking to Miss Chen. Why did you do that?" James sat up straight, looking serious like he did as a guard. "I saw that she was upset and embarrassed. It just felt right to make sure she was okay." Some things are more important than rules, even royal rules. Claire asked with a smile. Even those, James said. My job is to protect people and the palace. Being kind to someone who is upset seemed like part of that job to me. Claire turned back to Sarah. And how do you feel about becoming famous overnight? Sarah laughed nervously. It's very strange. I came to London to see the sights, not to be one of them. Everyone in the room laughed at her joke. James, Claire continued, will you face any punishment for breaking protocol? James glanced at Sir Robert, who stood off camera. No. The palace has been very understanding. I'm grateful for that. The interview continued for a few more minutes. Sarah and James told the story again. They answered questions about how it felt to be in a viral video. They were both honest and simple in their answers. At the end, Claire asked one last question. What would you like people to take away from this story? Sarah thought for a moment. I think maybe that, behind every uniform or job, there's a real person. James could have been harsh with me when I broke the rules by accident, but he was kind instead. James nodded. And I learned that sometimes being human is more important than being perfect at your job. When the interview ended and the cameras turned off, Sarah felt relieved. It wasn't as bad as she had feared. James shook her hand. Thank you, he said. You handled that very well. But neither Sarah nor James knew that this interview would take their story to an even bigger level. The interview played on TV that evening. By the next morning, it had spread across the world. Now Sarah and James weren't just in a viral video. They were real people with names and stories. People liked them even more. Sarah's phone wouldn't stop ringing. News shows from America wanted to talk to her. Magazines wanted to take her picture. Someone even offered her money to tell her story. This is crazy, she told her mom on the phone. I just want to finish my vacation. Enjoy it, her mom said. Not everyone gets to be famous for doing something nice. Sarah tried to enjoy the rest of her time in London, but it was hard. People recognized her on the street. They asked to take pictures with her. Some called her the guard hugger. Sarah was shy, but she tried to be nice to everyone. Meanwhile, James went back to his normal life too. But things weren't normal anymore. His fellow guards teased him good-naturedly. They called him the smiling guard and asked if he planned to hug any more tourists. James took it all with good humor. He was a quiet person who never sought attention, but he didn't regret what he had done. 3 days after the interview, Sarah was eating breakfast at her hotel when her phone rang. It was Mrs. Taylor from the palace again. Miss Chen, Mrs. Taylor said, I have some news. His Majesty would like to meet you and Guard Wilson tomorrow. Sarah almost dropped her phone. The king wants to meet me. Yes, just a brief meeting. He was quite touched by your interview. Sarah couldn't believe it. First, she had accidentally hugged a royal guard. Now she was going to meet the King of England. What would her students back in Boston think? The next day, Sarah wore her best dress. She met James at the palace entrance. He wore his regular guard uniform, but with extra medals and decorations. He looked very smart. Are you nervous? Sarah asked him. James nodded. Very. I've never met His Majesty up close before. They were led through beautiful halls with paintings and gold decorations. Sarah tried to remember everything so she could tell her students later. Finally, they came to a room where an older man waited for them. He didn't wear a crown, but Sarah knew he was the king. They both bowed as they had been taught to do. Miss Chen, Guard Wilson, the king said with a kind smile. Please, come sit down. They sat on fancy chairs. Sarah tried not to look too nervous. I wanted to meet the two people who have shown the world that humanity still matters, the king said. Your little moment has made many people happy. Thank you, Your Majesty, Sarah said, her voice shaking a little. It was an accident. The best moments often are, the king replied. Guard Wilson, you put kindness above rules. That shows good judgment. James sat very straight. Thank you, sir. The king looked at both of them. I have an idea. People have been touched by your story. Many have asked how they can help others who were inspired by it. Sarah and James looked confused. I suggest we start a small charity, the king continued. We could call it the Unforgettable Moment Fund. It would help veterans in both Britain and America. Sarah's eyes went wide. A charity? Because of us? Yes, the king said. Would you both be willing to help launch it? Just attend one event before Miss Chen returns to America. James and Sarah looked at each other. This was much bigger than either of them had expected. A royal charity with their story as its beginning. I would be honored, James said. Sarah nodded. Me too. As they left the palace, Sarah felt like she was in a dream. She had come to London as a tourist. Now she was helping start a charity with the King of England. James, she said as they walked outside, did you ever think a simple accident would lead to all this? James shook his head. Never. But I'm glad it happened. What they didn't know was that someone had taken a picture of them leaving the palace together. By morning, a new story would begin. The next morning, Sarah woke up to her phone buzzing with messages. Her friend from Boston sent her a link with the message. Is this true? Sarah clicked the link. It showed a picture of her and James leaving the palace. The headline read, Guard Hugger and Royal Guard. A royal romance. Oh no, Sarah said out loud. She quickly called the number Mrs. Taylor had given her. I've seen it, Mrs. Taylor said when she answered. Don't worry. The palace will release a statement explaining you were both meeting with His Majesty about the charity. Sarah felt better after the call, but still worried. She didn't want people to think she and James were dating. That would make everything even more complicated. Her phone rang again. This time, it was James. Have you seen the news? He asked. His voice sounded stressed. Yes, Sarah said. Mrs. Taylor says the palace will fix it. Good, James said. He was quiet for a moment. This is all very strange, isn't it? A week ago, we didn't know each other. Now we're starting a charity together. Sarah laughed. And people think we're in love. James laughed too. Life is full of surprises. 2 days later, Sarah and James met at a big hotel for the charity launch. Important people from Britain and America were there. Even some movie stars came to support the cause. Sarah wore a blue dress that her mom had helped her pick out over a video call. James wore his guard uniform again. They both felt nervous but excited. The king spoke first. He told everyone about how Sarah and James's viral moment had touched hearts around the world. Then he explained the charity would help veterans in both countries. Now, the king said, I'd like to introduce the two people who inspired this charity, Miss Sarah Chen and Guard James Wilson. Everyone clapped as Sarah and James walked onto the stage. Sarah's heart beat fast. She had never spoken to such an important crowd before. James went first. His voice was clear and strong. I'm just a regular person who does his job, he said. But that day, I saw someone who needed kindness. I'm glad I followed my heart instead of just the rules. Then it was Sarah's turn. She took a deep breath. I came to London to see the palace, she said. I never thought I would meet a royal guard, much less hug one by accident. People laughed. But I learned something important, Sarah continued. Behind every uniform is a real person, and sometimes the most meaningful connections happen by accident. After the speeches, people came to talk to them. Many promised money for the charity. A rich businessman from New York promised $1 million. A famous singer said she would do a free concert to raise more money. By the end of the night, the Unforgettable Moment Fund had raised over $3 million. It was a huge success. As the event ended, Sarah felt both happy and sad. She was flying home to Boston tomorrow. Her London adventure was ending. James walked her to her taxi. Thank you, he said, for turning my broken protocol into something good. Sarah smiled. And thank you for not having me arrested when I hugged you. They both laughed. Will you stay in touch? James asked. Let me know how you're doing back in Boston. Of course, Sarah said. She wrote her email address on a piece of paper and gave it to him. Friends should stay in touch. As her taxi drove away, Sarah looked back at James standing on the sidewalk. She had come to London looking for memories. She was leaguing with a friend, a viral video, and a royal charity with her name on it. Little did she know, this was not the end of her London story. It was just the beginning. Back in Boston, Sarah tried to return to her normal life. She went back to teaching her second-grade class. The children had many questions about her famous hug and meeting the king. Did the guard have a sword? One little boy asked. Was the king wearing his crown? A girl wanted to know. Sarah answered their questions with a smile. She used her story to teach the children about different countries and cultures. She even showed them pictures of London, careful to skip past the many news articles about herself. But normal life wasn't so normal anymore. People recognized her at the grocery store. A local news team came to her school to do a story. The principal was very proud that one of their teachers was famous. Every few days, Sarah got emails from Mrs. Taylor about the charity. The Unforgettable Moment Fund was growing fast. More and more people were donating money. Veterans in both America and Britain were getting help because of it. Sarah also got emails from James. At first, they were formal and short. Dear Miss Chen, I hope you arrived home safely. The charity event raised another $1 million yesterday. Respectfully, James Wilson. But over time, the emails became more friendly. Hi Sarah. Guess what? The other guards finally stopped teasing me about my smile. Now they're teasing me about something else. My captain caught me checking my phone for your emails during break time. Hope your students are doing well. James. Sarah looked forward to these emails. She and James were becoming real friends, even with an ocean between them. 1 month after Sarah came home, she got a surprise package in the mail. It was from England. Inside was a small toy royal guard, wearing the tall black hat and red coat. A note came with it. For your classroom. So your students can see what a real guard looks like. Though I don't recommend hugging this one either. James. Sarah laughed and put the toy guard on her desk at school. Her students loved it. That same day, Sarah's phone rang during lunch break. It was Mrs. Taylor. Miss Chen, she said, sounding excited. The charity has now raised over $10 million. It's helping hundreds of veterans. His Majesty is very pleased. That's wonderful, Sarah said. She felt proud that something good had come from her embarrassing moment. There's more, Mrs. Taylor continued. We're planning a 1-year anniversary event for the charity. It will be next April in London. His Majesty hopes you can attend. Sarah's heart beat faster. Next April. That's almost a year away. Yes, Mrs. Taylor said. We wanted to give you plenty of time to plan. Guard Wilson will be there too, of course. After the call, Sarah sat thinking. A year was a long time. Many things could change, but the idea of going back to London, seeing James again, and celebrating the charity's success made her smile. That evening, she wrote an email to James. Guess what? I just got a call about the 1-year charity event. Will you be there? Also, my students love the toy guard. They named him Smiley after you. Not very royal, I know. How are things at the palace? Still standing perfectly still in the rain. Sarah. James replied just an hour later. Yes, I'll be at the event. Already have it marked on my calendar. Glad your students likes Smiley. And yes, still standing in the rain sometimes. But now I keep an eye out for flying hats and clumsy tourists. Wouldn't want to miss another life-changing moment. James. Sarah read his email twice, smiling. She had no idea what would happen in the coming year. But she knew that her London story wasn't over yet. Almost a year passed. Sarah and James emailed each other every week. Sometimes they talked on the phone. They became good friends. James told Sarah about his life as a royal guard. Sarah told James about her students and life in Boston. April came, and Sarah flew back to London. This time, she wasn't nervous. This time, she knew where she was going. When her plane landed, She felt like she was returning to a second home. The charity event was going to be at Buckingham Palace in a big room where special events happened. Sarah wore a new blue dress. It reminded her of the blue cap that had started everything when it blew away in the wind. When she arrived at the palace, Mrs. Taylor met her at the door. "Welcome back to London, Miss Chen," she said with a warm smile. "Everyone is excited to see you again." Sarah looked around. "Is James here yet?" "Guard Wilson is on duty right now," Mrs. Taylor said. "He'll join us later." Sarah felt a little disappointed. She had hoped to see James right away, but she understood that he still had his job to do. The room filled with important people. The king arrived and spoke with Sarah for a few minutes. He told her that the charity had now raised over $20 million and helped thousands of veterans. "Your accident turned into quite a blessing," the king said. "I'm just happy something good came from it," Sarah replied. The event began. People made speeches about the charity's work. Pictures were shown of veterans who had been helped. Everyone clapped and cheered. But Sarah kept looking at the door, waiting for James. Finally, she saw him enter. He wasn't wearing his red guard coat. He wore a nice dark suit instead. Their eyes met across the room, and they both smiled. James made his way through the crowd to Sarah. "Hello, Sarah," he said when he reached her. "It's good to see you again." "It's good to see you too, James," she said. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then James spoke. "Would you like to see something?" Sarah nodded, curious. James led her out of the big room and down a hallway. They walked through parts of the palace that regular tourists never saw. Finally, they came to a small garden. "This is my favorite spot in the palace," James said. "Not many people know about it." They stood in the quiet garden. Flowers bloomed all around them. It was peaceful after the noisy event. "I have something to show you," James said. He pulled a small frame from his pocket and handed it to Sarah. Inside the frame was a tiny piece of blue fabric. "Is this?" Sarah began. "Yes," James smiled. "It's a piece of your blue cap, the one that blew away. I found it later that day, caught on a bush. I kept it to remember." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "You kept this all this time?" James nodded. "It changed my life, you know, that little accident. Before, I was just doing my job. After, I became part of something bigger. The charity, yes, but also," he paused, "I made a true friend." Sarah smiled. "I'm glad the wind blew my hat away that day." "Me too," James said. "Though next time you visit London, maybe don't hug any more royal guards. They might not be as understanding as me." They both laughed. Then they heard people calling their names. They needed to go back to the event. As they walked back, James said, "Will you visit London again someday, even when there's no charity event?" Sarah looked at him and smiled. "I think I will. London feels like a second home now." 1 year ago, a tourist and a royal guard had an accidental moment that went viral. Today, they walked side by side as friends. Life was full of surprises. Sometimes the most unforgettable moments happened when you least expected them. As they rejoined the event, photographers took a picture of them together, this time with a planned, permitted smile that once again delighted people around the world.